that's a good question, because there's always things that you're going to try that maybe you're excited about initially, and then you find out it's not what you thought it was, and then actually you find out, well, I don't really enjoy doing it. So you just realize that's not for you. You move on. Maybe there's something else out there, but yeah, I like to realize that I like to show gratitude every day. Some days are better than others. So on those bad days, I just look back and think, well, what am I thankful for? I'm thankful for these things, and it's a big deal. It was a bad day, but tomorrow's another day.
Hey everyone, this is Devin Miller here with another episode of The Inventive Growth. I'm your host, Devin Miller, the serial entrepreneur that's grown several startups into 7- and 8-figure businesses, as well as the founder and CEO of Miller IP Law, where he helps startups and small businesses with their patents and trademarks. You ever need help with yours, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat. We're always here to help. Now, today we've got another great guest on the podcast, Brian Winch. And Brian, we're going to be talking a little bit about the growth that's been going on as he's becoming more active on LinkedIn and updating the company pages and seeing increased performance there, and also getting more active with content and images and other things on LinkedIn. Also been working on and diving into YouTube Shorts and looking at that as an option, and continuing to grab the low-hanging fruit to continue to build and grow his business. So with that much as an introduction, welcome on the podcast, Brian.
Hi, Devin. It's great to be here again.
Absolutely. So now, for those of you that haven't caught, so Brian's been on a few of our sister podcasts, including The Inventive Journey, Inventive Expert, and Inventive Founder. And so this one's the next continuation in the podcast series. But for those that haven't had a chance to go check out your previous episodes on the other podcasts, which I definitely encourage they should, but otherwise, give everybody a quick introduction to yourself.
Okay. I started a simple parking lot litter cleanup service back in 1981, long time ago. I was 21 years old, and I was working a full-time job as a shipper receiver at a sporting goods company. And I decided I couldn't see myself doing that for the rest of my life. Besides, my opportunities for advancement were limited because I didn't go to college. I had a high school education. So I started looking at different types of business opportunities. I didn't have a lot of money, experience, or the education, like I said. So I thought, well, maybe it's some sort of cleaning business. And I started looking at various niche type of cleaning opportunities. And long story short, I remember my dad, who was a janitor for a full-time job, he would do a number of side hustles, including cleaning up litter from a neighborhood parking lot. And with that in mind, and I had helped him a couple times, I decided, well, let's see if there's a business in that. And so I jumped into it and learned from the School of Hard Knocks, and basically grew that side hustle into a successful business of 40 plus years.
No, that's awesome. I always love that story. I think it's great, and I always, sometimes the simplest ideas are oftentimes the best ones, and to where you're saying, hey, it fills a need. It's something that people are dealing with, and yet there isn't a good solution out there. So why not go create a business around it? So now we've talked a little bit about in more or depth the journey, as well as even how you founded the business, and this podcast and the series of podcasts is really talking about now how you go about growing the business, or what have you been doing more recently to continue to expand and to grow the business, because kind of the old adage goes, if you're not, you're growing, you're dying, so to speak. And it doesn't mean that you have to be forever blazing and never having the ability to catch your breath or otherwise take a break a little bit. But the adage is kind of saying, hey, you should always be working on your business and how to expand it, and how to make it better, and how to stay ahead of the competition or other options out there. And so we talked a little bit about before the episode about you guys have been getting a bit more active on a few platforms, including LinkedIn. So maybe give us a little bit of an idea how you guys have been using that platform to continue to or increase your growth.
Well, I think a lot of professional people start with a basic profile on LinkedIn, and with a lot of people that maybe work for a company, that's good enough. But if you're actually in business for yourself, I think you need to expand upon that. And a lot of people aren't aware, but you can create a company page on LinkedIn, and then you can start sharing content about your business and the benefits that customers or prospects would derive from doing business with you. Nobody wants to be hit over the head with all sorts of salesy messages, but share content that your prospects and your customers would find useful, and they'll start liking it and they'll start sharing it. And it's a great way to build trust in the community for whatever service that you're providing.
Now, I think that's easy. And I think that you're right. I mean, I think a lot of times people, there's certainly, and I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, and it's been a platform I've been using for several years now. But, I think a lot of people that go on, they'll create a pretty minimal, profile for themselves. Maybe when they switch, either when they get laid off from a job or when they switch from a job, they'll go and up or take another look at it and update it a bit, and otherwise they really don't touch it. Maybe they like to do it kind of like other social media platforms and peruse it for content, but never look at it as really an avenue to leverage for your business. And so you kind of started to touch on it, but what do when you're starting to, what kind of content are you putting out there? Because in the sense that you can only put so many posts of, hey, have you cleaned your your parking lot lately, or have you cleaned the outside of the business? And after that, it's not really engaging content. So I think that's where people struggle. So as you guys have been kind of expanding into that, what avenues or how have you or leveraged it or utilized it to actually more than just have a presence, but actually use it to grow the business?
Well, one of the things that I mentioned on one of our earlier episodes is, I'm a firm believer in providing extra value. Do more than you say that you'll do. So, if when we're out cleaning parking lots and we notice, maybe the side of a building has been hit with fresh graffiti, or someone has done a midnight run and dumped off a bunch of furniture by the waste dumpster, or there's, some sort of property damage, someone ran over a stop sign, we take an image of that and we share that with our customers. So what we can also do with those images is we can share that on our company page and just basically point out, look, at this is what we shared. Does your litter cleanup vendor report incidents of property damage to you? We do, things like that. And then also there's all sorts of influencers, if you will, that you can follow on Facebook. So, we follow Keep America Beautiful. And, there's all sorts of great content that they provide, facts and studies done on litter and the problems that litter creates in the community. Then, on a lighter note, there's some material that you can follow where, they'll show, there's something that's related to the subject matter that's kind of comical, and you can share that. So, there's you're sharing some factual stuff, but also some light stuff that your followers of your company page would appreciate it.
No, and I think that's a great idea. And one of the things that's interesting to hit on is because I think that, the idea that you can only share so many facts and you can only share so many, here's, you should clean up, or, it's kind of the same thing in whichever side of the spectrum you fall on with climate change. And in the sense that you hear climate change all in the news, but it's the same thing over and over and over again. And you kind of start to tune it out. Even if you are a climate activist or you hate climate change or anywhere in the spectrum in between, you keep hearing the same thing over and eventually you don't pay attention to it. But I like the idea that, let's also keep from some light content, but also if you can say, images, here's some graffiti, and maybe even you make fun or make light of, here's some interesting or fun graffiti that we see. I think is a great avenue. And it gives people the ability to engage in your company more than just, hey, this is what we do, but let actually display what, or put it on for show is to the results that you're offering.
Well, exactly. And, one example of that got a lot of people commenting was I arrived at one of my buildings one day, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Somebody had pulled off a manhole cover, like a sewer grate, and cut it in half and left one half back in place. And they took the other half. And I couldn't understand, like, what kind of tools did they have to do this? Why would they do this? Why would they bother putting the other half back? And what were they using with the other half? So I put that question and that image out to on my LinkedIn page, and all sorts of people got back to me and said, hey, it's probably a someone who was looking for a cheap grill, barbecue grill, and all sorts of different things. And so I got a lot of people commenting on it, and at the end of the day, that's what I want.
No, and I think that's certainly very smart. And I like, as we've talked on some of the other podcasts as well, it's always kind of going after that low hanging fruit in the sense that, a lot of times people think, hey, I have to go hire a huge marketing firm. I have to do a lot of ad spend. I'm not saying those are bad or can't be good for your business, but oftentimes you jump immediately to that and you overlook, hey, where are the avenues where it doesn't cost me anything or, other than time, and time I understand is valuable, but it's not costing the bottom line of the business. And that also are oftentimes overlooked. And I think you guys have done a great job of that. Now, I will be remiss just because you brought it up, and I know it's kind of outside of the growth or discussion, but just out of curiosity, because I'm guessing you've seen a lot of graffiti. What's the one that's the funniest one, or the one that sticks out in your mind the most?
Well, actually, there's some that are pretty obscene. It falls into, I guess, three camps. Some that are just someone just wants to be obscene. And then there's the others that I guess they're tags. They belong to gangs or whatever, and they're just kind of marking their territory, letting other people know that this is our neighborhood or whatever. And then of course there's the real creative stuff. I mean, some of these people are pretty artistic, and so in some cases, when I've reported that to my clients, they joke, well, you know what, it looks better than just a blank wall. Maybe we should just leave it.
So no, and I think that's fun. So it'd be fun. I'll have to, and I'll be the first to admit I don't know that I've gone and looked at your LinkedIn profile for those type of images. But now I've certainly got me curious to go and see some of the probably not the obscene ones. Those ones I'll probably stay away from. And those ones might get you in trouble on LinkedIn platform. I have no idea what they would do, but I'd love to see the ones that are artistic, and that'd be kind of fun. So. Well, now switching gears, the other one that you'd mentioned, there's another way that you guys have been starting to explore into or looking into a bit more is on I think the YouTube Shorts and kind of going and looking at that as another potential avenue for growth and to expand into. So maybe give us a little bit of an idea on what you guys are doing there.
Well, for those in the audience that haven't heard about this, but I understand in the early part of February, late January, YouTube introduced something that they call YouTube Shorts, which are basically short videos under a minute long. So it could be 30 seconds, 45 seconds. And basically you just post those. And it's the same thing works on Facebook. It's called Facebook Reels. And so any short videos that maybe you just have a thought or you just want to rant about something. But, if you're a business, you want to keep it focused to what you do and how you can help your prospects or your clients, and you can post those. And it's amazing the audience on Facebook or YouTube has for those little videos. And in some cases, you get better traction and more people, a bigger audience watching those than if you were to create, just another blog post or just content online. And so we're kind of fooling around with that, and then in some cases you don't need to be restricted to just the under a minute. If you go beyond that and you have more to talk about and more to share with your audience, like how to, etc., you're better off just going, whatever it is, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 9 minutes, and just sharing that on YouTube. But I'd caution, there's some videos that are out there that are 15 minutes and 20 minutes, and I think a lot of people with their attention span these days, it's a turn off if they see, well, I don't know if I want to watch a 20-minute video. And so, if you keep it interesting and, fairly brief, you'll gain more people that will watch it.
So now one question, and I think that, that people are sometimes hesitant is what kind of content create. In other words, sometimes it's easier, and I'll put it in quotes, on LinkedIn or that, to do a quick image and then you do text, because you don't have to have anybody on camera. You don't have to have recording. You don't have to do any of that. And also sometimes it's easier to to do those all in one chunk, or to otherwise figure out what that, what that is, or how to do it. And yet when you have to get on video and you have to share something, people tend to maybe hesitate or shy away from it a bit. So give us maybe a few examples, or kind of what have you guys been experimenting with, or what kind of shorts have you guys been looking at doing?
Well, in the case of my the clean lot site where I show people how to start parking lot litter cleanup business, we're starting to record some videos where we share information, stuff from our website, like how to set up an account on LinkedIn, or how to get free publicity. And we'll show content for screenshot maybe from the website, but then we can also go to the video where it shows me speaking. And people want to learn things, and they want to learn things for free. And so if they can get that in a short video, but they want to learn more, then you encourage them to go back to your website to learn more.
Yeah, no, and I think that makes sense. And it's kind of that snippets. No, you're not gonna, probably not most of the time, give all of your secrets or all of your information away for free. But if we can say, hey, here's some ways to get started, here's a few things to think about, here's how you can, maybe, or start to, or get into the business, it gives them the incentive to then say, oh, this is worthwhile, or and they can start to try it out, see it as some easy wins, or quick or successes, and then want to come back and further utilize your platform, or learn more. So I think that's definitely smart. Now, how many, on maybe on both of them, and I know that there's lots of different rules of thumb for lots of different people, but how often do you guys are kind of putting content on LinkedIn and on the YouTube Shorts? So kind of how frequently do you try and do it, or is there a rule of thumb that you guys try and follow?
I try with the LinkedIn. I try to do something every week. Sometimes it's not. I don't want to force it. I don't want to put something out there that isn't of any value. So it's generally about 3 times a month, I would say. And that's fine. But you'll hear some experts will tell you, you should create something every day. And I don't. If you don't have something useful to share every day, then don't do it. That's what I what I say. In terms of the videos, we're just getting into that right now, and we're recording some stuff. But I'm thinking, if something hits, and of course, Google owns YouTube, and I'm sure a lot of people have noticed that if you're doing a search for something, of course, you'll see the ads at the top of the screen. And then you'll see the content, like the blog posts. But then now they're sharing more and more videos. And a lot of people, because it's eye attention, it grabs your eye when you see a video. And a
Mhm.
lot of people will oftentimes gravitate to those videos. And because it's more entertaining, you get to see someone talking and whatever, and to get some information. And so that's what we're starting to do. And we'll see what works best, like 3 minutes or 5 minutes, and just kind of play around with it. But I think a lot of people are recognizing that. And of course, there's so many blogs these days. And if you're writing a blog, or you're getting into starting a blog, you've got a lot to compete with. But it seems to me with the videos, there's less competition. And and it's more it's more attention grabbing to a lot of people these days.
No, and I think that's absolutely right. And the nice thing a lot of times with all content is that you don't have to just limit it to one platform. In other words, if you're wanting to do it as a YouTube short, sometimes you can leverage it on LinkedIn, or your website, or your newsletter, or Facebook, or whatever it might be. And so, using that across multiple platforms, because they all have their own algorithms, their own audiences, and their own things. And sometimes you might have to tailor it. But I think that that's, again, a way that you can go back to the low hanging fruit of what's out there, and utilize a lot of what you're doing without having to always have to just simply go to try and do paid marketing. Well, those are a couple of the ones that we talked with before. Any other kind of low hanging fruit that you guys have pursued, or that are on forefront of mind, or you guys are trying out?
Well, a lot of people think that, oh, I can't get free publicity. I mean, who's interested in my business? Or, but I am a firm believer that everybody has a story, and you can find something newsworthy. And so you can easily get free publicity, whether it's just locally in your local newspaper. And a lot of newspapers these days, or TV stations, are obviously online as well. So they share content not just in their the print the hard copy, but also on the online editions. And that's something that we did a couple of years ago during the height of COVID, when we started noticing a lot of people just tossing their used gloves in parking lots. And a
Mm,
lot of the guys that were working for me started commenting that, "Hey, Brian, have you noticed? I mean, we're cleaning up more and more of this used PPE in parking lots." So I approached the TV station in my area,
mm,
and bang! With a couple of hours after I pitched the story, I spoke with an editor, and I met a news crew out at one of my job sites the following morning, and that was great publicity, and the story went national. And but so I tell people, that you can always find an interesting angle to what you do, or how you got started, what makes you different. And if you pay attention to the news, you'll realize, okay, well, what's newsworthy? What's in the news these days? And what can I find that can tap into that? And it definitely is possible to get free publicity. And if I had to pay for that, I mean, that would have been thousands of dollars if I had to pay for
mm.
that kind of press.
No, I think that's awesome. I think that's a good rule. And I think sometimes people are sometimes focused on only the digital. I'm not saying the digital isn't good. LinkedIn, we already talked about LinkedIn and YouTube and a lot of platforms, but I think that if you can have multiple prongs, you can say, hey, if I can get free press, whether it's still on TV or then local news or newspaper, or it can be, or online, and it can be a variety of places that I think still gives a lot of things for people to leverage and to, again, hit those low hanging fruits that I think oftentimes are overlooked and yet can be as impactful or more impactful. And yet sometimes people tend to want to go for the what's new and shiny as opposed to what's, sometimes is or works as well. So,
Well,
well,
what you can also do with all of this stuff is you can share it, but you can also put it on your website. And
mhm.
at the end of the day, I mean, if Google sees you, the way they rank a lot of websites is it informational? Is it, are they putting out content that's relevant? That helps you in the long run with your SEO. So, more prospects at the end of the day are going to be able to find you.
Mm. No, I think that's absolutely makes perfect sense. So, well, now as we are wrapping towards the end of this episode, and it was a fun discussion to hear how you guys are continuing to grow and the new avenues you guys are pursuing. I always have one question I'd like to wrap up with for this or this podcast, which is, I think with every business, you always have ebb and flows. You get really excited, you have new opportunities, you're trying out new things, and there are also times you just get worn out. That is, does sometimes get to a big or a grind, or you're having to do a big push, or you're having to work a lot of hours or anything of that. And so when you do hit those times where you get a bit worn out or you get a bit tired with your business, what do you do?
Well, there's going to be, that's a good question, because there's always things that you're going to try that maybe you're excited about initially, and then you find out it's not what you thought it was, and then actually you find out, well, I don't really enjoy doing it. So you just realize that's not for you. You move on. Maybe there's something else out there, but I like to realize that I like to show gratitude every day. Some days are better than others. So on those bad days, I just look back and think, well, what am I thankful for? I'm thankful for these things, and it's a big deal. It was a bad day, but tomorrow's another day.
No, and I think that's good. And I think, sometimes, maybe even to build on top of that, you can, a lot of times, I was talking with another entrepreneur this week, is, to kind of take those step back sometimes and look and see what you have accomplished. Because I think a lot of times you get, and rightly so, you get stuck on or here and now. What do I need to get done today or this week? And what are my to-do lists? And what are the fires I need to put out? Or what are the things I need to get accomplished? Which are all good things and need to get them done. But a lot of times you forget all of the things that you've already previously accomplished, the things you've done, the successes you've had. And if you can step back, then it's, makes it a little bit easier to have that kind of sense of gratitude and what you've already, or what you've been able to do, and the things that you've been blessed with. So I think that's a great way to keep that in perspective as you get a bit worn out.
Exactly, because it's really easy to get comfortable and forget, how far you've come.
Yep, absolutely. Well, now as we are wrapping up the episode, if people want to reach out to you, they want to be a customer, they want to be a client, they want to be an employee, they want to be an investor, they want to be your next best friend, any or all of the above, what's the best way to reach out to you, contact you, find out more?
Well, if you're interested in looking into a simple service as mine, a niche parking lot litter cleanup service, just go to cleanlots.com, and there's a wealth of information on the website, and I do offer free support because it works, and it's another way of my way of giving back. Yeah.
Hmm. Well, that's awesome. Well, I definitely encourage people to go check out the website, support a great business, even maybe start their own business, and if nothing else, make a new best friend. So, with that, thank you again, Brian, for coming on the podcast. It's been fun. It's been a pleasure. Now, for all of you, the listeners, if you can help us out by sharing these inventive growth episodes, so we can help even more startups and small businesses out there, just make sure to click share, subscribe, and leave us a review. Really does help us to reach even more startups and small businesses. And on that note, along your journey, if you ever need help with your startup, your small business, with patents, trademarks, or anything else, feel free to reach out to us. Just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat, and we are always here to help. Well, thank you again, Brian, for coming on the podcast, and wish the next leg of your journey even better than the last.
Thanks, Devin. Take care.